The WNBA is back on Stacey on Sports, Season 2 of Around the W. I am your main host, Stacey Carter II. Of course, got to rock my Aces gear over here. Introducing two guests on this show, McDonough and Audrey Becker. How y'all doing today?
I'm doing pretty electric, Stacey. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Electric? I never heard somebody say they doing electric. That's awesome. That is.
I'm excited for the season to start, you know?
Oh, yeah. Audrey, how you doing over there?
I'm doing amazing. I keep seeing the media day photos on Instagram, and it's just getting me, I'm so excited for the season to start, and I'm excited to have things to talk about, you know? So, it's been a long season.
It's going to be a great season. We have one new team in the fold with the Golden State Valkyries. We got our top pick, Paige Beckers. We got everything in between, and we just going to talk about the WNBA as a whole picture starting off. Let's just talk about a storyline that we are looking forward to play out this season. Caitlin, start us off with that. What is that one storyline that you're going to be focusing on throughout the 2025 season in the W?
I think one story I'm kind of focused on is the new format of the finals and the playoffs this season. You know, last season we saw it was best of 3, but it was the higher seeded team hosted the first 2 games, and then they would travel if they needed to go to for the third game. But now it's kind of that there's a little bit more home court advantage plays definitely a bigger part in the playoffs. You know, with the higher seeded team hosting games 1 and 3, and then the other seed, they can go and play in game 2, which I think is really cool to see because like the NBA, the home court definitely plays a factor in how things will turn up. And I think it's going to be interesting as well with the expansion of the teams as well, going from 40 games to now 44. If any of the coaches will look to maybe rest some of their superstars if they can, maybe the better teams can, or I think it's just going to be interesting to see if any players, how hard they'll go all season or if there's going to be any rest like there is. And then obviously the finals, it's game 7, best of 7 series now, which I'm a really big fan of. I think that is more of an indicator of which team is better. I think best of 5 was really cool. And I think best of 5 could be implemented towards the beginning of the playoffs, but I'm really, really happy to see games, 1 through 7 potentially being played in the finals this year.
Yeah, way back when I was started watching the WNBA and I got to know more, I was very surprised that the finals were just a 5-game series. And I always thought that it was way too short because if team go 2-0, it's that's it.
Right.
It's not going past 4. That rarely happens, but I'm glad they is doing that. And then, of course, adding 4 more games with the new team coming in, and then we got 2 more squads coming in. So they could hit 52 at some point. So that is going to be a factor. I'm glad you brought that up. Do we rest our ladies towards the end, or will seeding actually really matter if you're that good? So great points. Audrey, what storyline are you watching out for in the W this season?
I'm glad you guys brought up the playoffs because I'm biased as I'm a Lynx fan, but I wholeheartedly believe that the Lynx are going back to the finals and they're going to get the job done this year. So I think the Lynx have a very talented roster, though I will admit I'm scared of the Liberty. And I think the entire league should be scared of the Liberty. They only got better in the offseason. Added Natasha Cloud, lost very few players. And the players that they did lose, if I'm remembering correctly, were not key to their playoff success. So no huge losses, a bunch of gains, and I'm a little wary. But I think besides the Liberty, I can't think of a team that the Lynx should be afraid of personally. I guess you could argue for the Storm, but really, it's really just Nneka Ogwumike who strikes that fear into me. So.
What's the difference between the Lynx last year and this year that you see that indicates that they'll be the winner of the finals?
Well, something I think is important is Diamond Miller's injury recovery. She was really crucial to their success 2 seasons ago. They did not make it all the way, and I remember Diamond Miller. She was their second overall pick. She was really shining, and the following year she got hurt pretty
Shine
early
bright
on.
like a diamond.
Exactly. She's going to shine bright like a diamond, truly. I'm excited to see her back. I think Dorka Juhas are pretty underrated pieces because they have been so absent. Dorka Juhas playing through her international contract, so she's been in and out of the States, like hasn't been a consistent part of the roster. So I think just kind of gaining back that bench firepower. And they retained Atisha Hyman, who I think is a crazy good spark plug type of player, as well as Courtney Williams. Courtney Williams can really turn it on. She reminds me, she's like a volume scorer. She's a slasher. She can score from anywhere. She's quick. And I think she's reliable. You know, she knows how to pass the ball. She can do it all. So I'm happy they retained her. So Stacey, to answer your question, I think the difference between the Lynx this year and the Lynx last year is that they're getting some of their pieces back to 100%. And should Nafisa Collier get tired, like she can take a rest, and Peely will step up, or Juhas will step up, or Miller will step up. And so I think there's more options. I think there's more resilience this time around.
If I was a WNBA team, would be a little concerned about them because they haven't made too many off-season moves compared to other teams. You know, they've obviously brought people in and, you know, the same couple people go, but they've kind of had the same squad for the most part. But I think one thing that really makes them different as well is the experience that they have. Last season, they did make it to the finals. They lost, but they have that experience of getting there, knowing what it's like to kind of go through the playoff and the run they've done. And they know what it's going to take to make it to that next level. They were so close to beating the Liberty. I mean, if you look at each game, it was decided by a couple points each. And a coach like Cheryl Reeves, she's going to have her squad perform in and game out. And she's not one that likes to be in second place ever. And having them lost the Commissioner's Cup as well, I think they're going to be even hungrier to get more silverware this year. And even if they don't win the WNBA finals, if they do win the Commissioner's Cup, I think that will be a successful season for them. And I just can't really see anyone, potentially a couple teams besides the Aces. I was going to say, I know, they could definitely challenge them, but if you have the same core that you have and you've retained them, the chemistry is all there. It's just now kind of getting that over that final hump and really just putting a ring on their fingers. But I can see them completely going off again. People really underrated them this season. Some teams are being talked about more than others this year. And I think the Lynx is one of the teams that's sort of been underrated and going under people's radars, saying that maybe last year was a fluke. But truthfully, I don't think last year was a fluke. I think they have the right pieces to kind of get over the line, and we're going to see how it plans out this year. But I think it's a team that people should definitely be scared of.
Yeah, I would say they did a little bit, to a certain extent, overachieve last year, because we did not see a number 2 seed overall in the W coming, definitely not a finals appearance. Like, we were all expecting that Liberty Aces clash. Unfortunately, due to the format, they had to meet earlier. But I always said this about the NBA, and the same thing for the WNBA, and we've seen this with the Aces. Continuity is important. You bring back your core, you bring back your coach, everybody's still buying in, everybody's still hungry, you're eventually going to get into that championship picture and win it. So, like, I could see both of y'all points. The thing that I'm looking out for this season now, we in a league where individual stars still drive the numbers up, they drive the ratings up, they get the social media hits. And one particular individual that I'm looking at is Angel Reese with the Chicago Sky in her second season. She finished with a double-double. I think she finished with 13 and 13 last year. However, it was a lot of negative headlines about her play, about her finishing inside, not having a jump shot, which we all saw that coming into her rookie season last season, that she wasn't going to have a jump shot right away. She's supposed to be arguably the most marketable face in the W. So her face, her name, her stats are going to be magnified by 50 every single time. And I'm looking for her this year to take that next step. when it comes to having that outside touch from 12 feet, 15 feet, when it comes to finishing inside, we talk about a player that if she up her percentage, because I think last year she finished a shade below 40% overall. If she gets that to like 46 this season, look out. The Chicago Sky can make a run, not to the finals, but they can do some damage in the playoffs. And we talk about pairing her with Camila Cardoso. She got her girl Haley Van Lith back. They gonna be on the floor at the same time. Savannah Sloop back with the Sky. So they're all gonna be led by Angel Reese. She's gonna be the catalyst whether they succeed or fail, and her improvement will tell how far they go this season. Audrey, how you feel about Angel Reese going into year 2?
I feel good. I think she has a chip on her shoulder even more so than last year. I feel like the press especially tried to pit her against Caitlin Clark, and that's not to say she didn't play into it a little bit, you know. There's an entertainment aspect. Of course, it's a game and it's a business, but there's also viewers, there's storylines. It's like a soap opera, if you will, but with basketball. And the more entertained people are, the more they're going to come back. So I don't know how sincere with a rivalry with Caitlin Clark. I think that was maybe a little exaggerated for fan engagement, but I digress. I'm excited to see her with Haley Van Lith. I think Chicago also had a pretty good offseason. If I'm remembering correctly, they didn't lose anybody significant, and I think they have a lot of potential.
Definitely. All right, let's move on to topic number 2. Of course, we got to have our MVP candidate list. A'ja Wilson, I'm pretty sure she's automatically on all of our lists. She reached that point in her career where she's automatically an MVP candidate. But who else is on your list in 2025, at least to start the season? Kaylin, who's on your list?
Yeah, I've also got Nafisa Collier on my list. What she did last season, I just see her getting better and better. You know, she had a fantastic season last year. She pushed A'ja Wilson to the limits, and I think those two are kind of going to go at it again. You know, she was the unrivaled MVP in the offseason, so that could be a subtle foreshadow of things to come. I definitely, you know, like Audrey said, how Angel Reese has a chip on her shoulder. I think Nafisa Collier could come into the season with a chip on her shoulder as well, wanting to prove to people that she's just as good as A'ja Wilson, maybe if not better. And someone else that I also have on my list that is A'ja's teammate is Jackie Young. I think Jackie Young's production, she can be a little under the radar and kind of quiet, but her production numbers are going to have to increase after they lost Kelsey Plum and a couple other stars. So I think the attention is going to be on her to kind of get things done. And if Chelsea Gray stays, you know, pretty healthy this season, I think she would look to Jackie Young a lot to, you know, sink some shots. And she looked pretty impressive in the preseason win over the Wings. I know it's just preseason, but Jackie Young went off. She led the team in points. I think she had 28 or something in like 29 minutes, which to me, she looked very sharp. You know, this is kind of, I think, her 5th season, maybe 6th season in the league now. So she's got a couple years under her belt, and definitely think Becky Hammon is going to have to look to her to get this Aces team going, and especially with losing some key scorers like they did earlier.
All right, so Jackie Young, wow. Hey, that's
why not? Why not? You know,
yeah, hey, man, that's really bold right there. That's really bold. Because I mean, like, I feel like it's kind of like that in NBA terms, that LeBron effect. When you have Anthony Davis, like, yeah, you can put up these monster numbers, but you just gonna have that person on the team, A'ja Wilson. Anything that she does will be 2 steps ahead of yours. So she really got to shine this year. But I respect it, though. I respect it. Audrey, who's on your MVP list besides A'ja Wilson?
Like Caitlin, I have Nafisa Collier on my MVP list.
Yeah.
Yep. How can you not? How can you not? But someone I would like to put forth to you guys is Alyssa Thomas. Okay. Alyssa Thomas, right. One of the newest additions to the Phoenix Mercury. The Mercury are retooling a bit, changing their identity. You know, Taurasi retired. Griner left for Atlanta. Sophie Cunningham, I believe, went to Fever. Yeah. So they lost. Those are 3 very key players to their identity in the past decade, really. So I like how they retooled with Alyssa Thomas. Let me look over who else. Kalia Copper from last year, Satu Sabli from Dallas. That's a huge, I think, and also underrated move of this offseason.
Definitely.
Those three alone are going to be a very powerful force to be reckoned with. I think Alyssa Thomas's basketball IQ is off the charts. I think she knows the game so well, and I think she's always looking to pass. She's not a score-first kind of player. She averaged, I believe, about 10, 8, 8 in the regular season off year. In the playoffs, I went up to 15, 8, 8. So really well-balanced player. And just the intangibles, the grit she plays with, you can tell she really is hustle. She really wants it. Not to say that other players on other teams don't want it, but I think she's just a very fierce competitor, which reminds me, not exactly to the same extent, but in shades of the Diana Taurasi attitude. She's tough, and I think that she's going to take her team very far.
All right, Alyssa Thomas. I like that. Triple-double queen. Right. All right, I got a few people on my list. Of course, like I said, A'ja Wilson and my cousin Afisa Collier. Number one reason why she's going to win MVP. She is my cousin. She is bred for greatness, but for all the reasons y'all said to as well. I got a few other names too. I don't know how y'all going to feel about these, but we'll see what happens. Sabrina Ionescu. If you look at their age, we talking about Breonna Stewart, 30s. Jonquel Jones, 30s. They got Natasha Cloud. She's great. I like Natasha Cloud. Speaking of toughness, but she's also 30s. She's also in her 30s. Bijane looks like she's out for the season. So this is Sabrina's time to take that mantle and lead the Liberty back to the championship and go back to back. I think that it will all falls on her play at the end of the day. Of course, Stewie is always going to be Stewie, but Sabrina is one of the most talented players in the league. She has a great shoe out right now, so why not? Why not go for the MVP? I think she needs to take over the team. If she's in her prime right now, she handles the ball. She needs to cook definitely this season. Also, I got Kelsey Plum. The reason why she left the Aces is so she can be an MVP candidate in her own right, which she is. And she's been like top 5, top 7 in and out, the past few seasons. But she's with a new team, the Sparks. A lot of young pieces on the team. Rakia Jackson, Cameron Brink, who still got to work herself back. This is Kelsey Plum's defining moment in the W. She's out of the shadow of A'ja Wilson. She's out of the point guard glow of Chelsea Gray. Now she has to be both in order for the Sparks team to turn their fortune around because, oh my goodness, they've been awful. They've been awful. There's been a lot of turmoil, a lot of weird moves with coaching. Y'all remember Derek Fisher? So this is her, like I said, this is her time. And then also for an honorable mention, I don't know if she's going to get it, but it's made for her to at least have some say in this conversation, Caitlin Clark. Look at the team that they built around her. There's no way they're going to be sitting just at the AC, barely getting into the playoffs. They are made to be better. And Caitlin Clark, y'all see she been hitting the gym. She looks stronger. She's ready and she's hungry. She's definitely going to have her name up there. And of course, media headlines going to go towards Caitlin Clark like it will other players. So I got those players in my MVP list. What y'all think about that?
I think some bold predictions there. I like it, especially the Caitlin Clark one. I mean, in their second season, but I mean, if anyone were to win or an MVP in their second season, it's going to be her. I mean, when they played Brazil yesterday, she's still nursing some injury, but I think she'll be completely fine during the season. She looked decent in the game against Brazil, and I think what the most impressive thing about her was she had such a rough start to her WNBA career, but she still put up such impressive numbers and still kind of carried that Fever team to reach the playoffs for the first time in a long time. And like you mentioned, Stacey, there's no way the Fever are going to sit at that 8th or 7th seed. They're definitely, I think, potentially could be 4th or 5th, maybe slip down to 6th, depending on how some games go. But I think she's definitely well on her way to really establishing herself in the league, and the pieces around her, they just work so well together. And just looking at that team chemistry so far, and especially in a new head coach in Stephanie White, I think Stephanie White fits this mold for the Indiana Fever extremely well. And I think Caitlin Clark will only grow under Stephanie White's leadership because she knows what it means to play for the Indiana Fever. And she already has that special connection with the fan base. And I think she's just going to explode, to be honest. But I like your picks. There's some solid, definitely solid picks in there, and some players that I think are going to prove themselves a lot. And there was a lot of movement this offseason, and Kelsey Plum is a great shot of that as well. She is up there in age, but I mean, she's out of the shadow, so it really is now or never for her.
Right. And also, Caitlin Clark, her name is Caitlin too, and she can't let you down this season.
Exactly. Gotta carry the legacy of the name.
Yeah, gotta carry. Yeah, all Caitlins are great. Audrey, what you think about my MVP list?
I see the vision. I don't think the Sparks are going to have a successful enough regular season for Kelsey Plum to earn an MVP. I see her having an individually great season because there is no, yes, they have Cameron Brink, but the rest of the roster is not, they're no aces. You don't have an Asia to compete with. You don't have a Chelsea to compete with. You don't have a Jackie to compete with for the ball. So I think her stats are going to improve, especially in the scoring and passing departments. I think that she and Brink will be a deadly duo. Pick and roll. I think that's going to be a very good offense defense 1-2 punch kind of pairing there. I am inclined to agree with your Caitlin Clark pick because of how strong this Fever offseason was. Adding DeWanna Bonner, a very talented offensive player, paired with her former coach, like that, they're not going to miss a beat. So if you have the offensive talents of DeWanna Bonner with the offensive game of Caitlin Clark, just right there is a crazy pairing. It's a defensive nightmare, really. Like one of them is always going to be running around. You cannot take a breath if you're the opposing team. Really, I feel like it's going to be suffocating, just outside shot after outside shot. And if you're the Fever, that's what you want. So let me take a look here. They also added Natasha Howard and Sophie Cunningham. Sophie Cunningham, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, a pretty decent outside shot as well. Solid on defense. A decent two-way kind of 3-and-D type of guard. And I don't think they're not a Lynx, they're not a Liberty. How would you guys predict their season to go standing next to the Aces?
I'm going to say it right now. My bold prediction that I had at the end as far as top of the list, I think the Fever are going to be a top 4 team in the W this season. And you ain't even mentioned Kelsey Mitchell, who's the most underrated player in the W, in my opinion, and Aaliyah Boston, who's just solid, who goes under the radar a lot. They got veterans, they got young pieces, Stephanie White. It's just all the makings for a top. I don't know if they'll reach the finals or the semifinals, but they definitely going to have that top 4 seed locked up.
I think, adding all those players, it gives them so much depth that they didn't have last season. I think last season they kind of focused more on the players that were starting, their core 5, or kind of whoever was in the rotation. But I think adding more players that can come off the bench and impact people, Stacey, you mentioned veterans. They also added Sydney Colson, who has been part of a championship team before. I know you're sad she left the Aces, but she could come in and get playing time, and she has all the experience herself. And going back to Aaliyah Boston, someone who kind of has floated under the radar, maybe hasn't had the impact that she would have liked coming out of college, but definitely someone that is still such a force to be reckoned with. And you see your chemistry with Caitlin Clark. I think this team just really does have all the makings to be a top 4 team. It's going to take a lot of work to be a top 4 team. But I mean, I see why. Like, why not? You know, if you look at all the off season, they probably had one of the better off seasons of a team in terms of acquiring players. And I think they are building the team around Caitlin Clark. They got the coach that they wanted who can set up their style. They're going to be physical. They're going to be aggressive right out of the bat, and they want to prove people wrong. And I think one thing that they're kind of just going about their business, you know, obviously they want to win a championship, but I think for them, they just have to take it game by game, right? There's going to be so much pressure on them. And last season, if a team locked up Caitlin Clark, there wasn't too many other options that they kind of looked to get points. But now by adding these extra pieces, if teams do end up shutting down Caitlin Clark, well, there's other people that can come up and come off the bench or even in the starting group that can get those points and generate offensive looks. If teams decide, hey, we don't want Caitlin Clark to get the ball and they face guard her, well, there's plenty of other options that they can go towards. And I think it'll be a more team-focused aspect this year. And Caitlin Clark will definitely score a ton of points and generate all the attention. But I think it's definitely easier for them if a team shuts down Caitlin Clark. They can definitely score more.
Definitely. All right, let's talk about, of course, the number 1 overall pick this year, which was Paige Becker's going to the Dallas Wings. Of course, she's going to make an impact right away with this Wings team who's rebuilding, to say the least. Let's just talk about real quick her first season with the Wings, like what's going to happen. The one thing that I'm going to be looking at is how she's going to fit in with Arike Ogunbowale. Like, will she be more so the facilitator, point guard? I think she averaged like 5 assists last year at UConn. I could be wrong about that, but she has those skill sets. But however, you're going to be paired with somebody who's a volume shooter, but also can get you 20 points per game. So how much are you going to add to that, or are you going to take away shots from that? They definitely got to work out that chemistry. That was my only concern about her going to the Wings. But the Wings, they're going to figure that out. I mean, you can't pass up on Paige Beckers. I think she's in a similar boat as Caitlin Clark, as somebody's coming in right away with a lot of fanfare, with a lot of headlines and attention that comes with her attached to her name. Maybe to a little bit of a lesser extent, but I think she's also in that same boat where right away she's going to be tested. Her strength, just like Caitlin Clark's last year, is going to be tested. Teams are going to go after her. She's going to figure out real quick, like, the WNBA is a physical league. Physical and fundamentals rule the WNBA, and she's going to have to figure that out. I think that she's the Rookie of the Year award is hers to lose. I don't really see anybody else in this rookie class competing for that award. Maybe Dominic Malaga up there with the Seattle Storm, but that's if they put her on the floor for a high quality amount of minutes. But it's Paige Beckers to lose, just like Caitlin Clark. I mean, she probably gonna have some push from a couple people in this rookie class this year, but if she put up decent numbers, like 14 and 4, they're gonna give it to her. However, I don't see the Wings making the playoffs at all. I see them as maybe the 3rd worst team to start and to finish. I had them just I think say what you want, but I think the Valkyrie going to be the worst team in W this year. I just think so. I mean, they're an expansion team, so you kind of got to expect that. Then the Mystics, we got to see what happens. Unfortunately, Georgia Amore will not play this season, but no playoffs for Paige Beckers in her first year. But I think that this year, just like Caitlin Clark's last year, it's going to be an adjustment period. Audrey, what do you think of Paige Beckers going into her first year with the Dallas Wings?
I think Paige Beckers has the same energy, the same effect on the general fan base as Caitlin Clark. You know, like the Caitlin Clark effect. I think we will see a Paige Beckers effect. I think she's intangible wise. I think she's got swag. I think she's got confidence. Like, I think she also is very eager to learn from players like Arike Ogunbowale, and improve on the defensive end. I believe she'll be playing next to Dejanay Carrington, who's a very solid defender. I think she is going to have an adjustment period. I don't think she's going to transition seamlessly from college to the W, because it is such a different game. It's faster. The players are stronger. The players are just better. It's just a better league, and it's not the competition she's used to playing against. But I think after that adjustment period, I think that she will be just fine, to say the least. I think she's going to continue doing Paige Becker things. I think she's going to score wherever she wants. I think she's going to learn how to share the ball more because, well, do you guys think she's the best player on that team right now?
No.
I would agree with that. Yep, I would agree. Because she's not the best player on her team, which it hasn't been like that for her in probably a very long time, you know? So I think she's going to take a lot of she's going to have a lot of learning experiences, but I think that's just going to make her better in the end. And I would also agree with you, Stacey. I think the Valkyries, and it's not their fault, you know. They had to draw from an expansion draft, and they got a very solid, popular, nice piece in Kate Martin, which I'm excited to see her play. Get a little bit of shine there. And I would also agree with you, Stacey, that the Mystics are just a very sad, abysmal franchise at the moment. They are not in a place to succeed, but I digress. So I think I agree with what everybody has said thus far in that they're not going to have a successful season in terms of winning, but I think in terms of developing Paige Beckers as the cornerstone of their franchise, I think it's going to be a start to something great. Takes a little time to nurture, though.
Of course. Kaylin, what you think about Paige Beckers going into her rookie season?
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be an adjustment period for her. She's not going to have the same kind of leadership that she would have when she was at UConn, and she's going to have to get used to, I think, making off-ball cuts or making more off-ball movements, which is something that she might not have done a lot at UConn, and it's just because she's a rookie, you know, that they are going to trust her with carrying the ball up the court, but it's not going to be every single play. So I think she's going to have to develop her vision on the court. I mean, her vision is already something that's been a really crucial part of her play when she was in college and she could see people and feed them the ball. But even more so now, you kind of get like a split second or maybe a second less to think, just because it's such a fast-paced league and it's physical as well. And she's going to have that adjustment period, you know, where she's not going to find easy shots and she's going to have to make do with what she has on the court. But I think she's in a good spot to succeed year one. And I think someone like Arike Ogunbowale, she's going to learn from her. And I think them too. That's why I was kind of hesitant to put Arike Ogunbowale on my MVP watch list, because even though she was second in points last season, I just think that the Wings were too reliant on her to get scoring now. And with Paige Beckers coming in, they're not going to have that problem. But I think the Wings, like, Achilles' heel has always been their consistency and their defense. They're not a team, in my opinion at least, that can string together, you know, like a series of 4 straight wins. You know, they would sometimes win a game and then they go on a losing streak. And then sometimes they have a losing streak and then they go on a winning streak. And it was never that consistency. And, you know, what kind of Wings version of this team would you have show up? And I think Paige Beckers is going to have to learn defense as well to adjust to her game. And the big part of the Wings is kind of the fast break. And I think Paige actually will help with fast break points. You know, she likes to get the ball up the court. She has great vision. And when she gets the ball, she's always looking forward. But it's definitely going to be an adjustment period for her. But I do think she is in a good environment to succeed. I think it helps that she basically is the number 2, I think maybe number 3, if you want to argue, best player on the Wings team right now. But I think she's going to have to prove herself. She's going to get playing time for sure, but it might not be as much as she's used to, just because she's coming into a new team. She has to learn how to play under new coaches and in a professional environment that is not going to give her any easy buckets. I mean, you saw her first bucket in preseason. She drove to the rim and she made it in, but she kind of fell in with contact after that. And I think she's going to just have to get whatever she's going to give from this league. But I think she's in a good spot.
Oh, yeah. To end off the episode real quick, I need a bold prediction from everybody. Kaylin, what's your bold prediction?
Speaking of Paige Beckers, I think my bold prediction actually is going to be Sonia Citron of the Washington Mystics is going to win Rookie of the Year. I know. It's bold, but
I like it.
They're not good, so I think that Citron is gonna have to become the court basically the whole time. And we saw she was a quiet leader on this Notre Dame team coming into the league. I think she has all the strengths to be Rookie of the Year candidate. She's physical. She can score 3 points. She can defend. And I think she might have a little bit more qualities that Paige has, just because she's going to have to share the ball with Enrique. But if you look at this Mystics team, I mean, who is Sonia Citron going to share the ball with? Nobody, because they're not really good. So I think she's going to be on the court a lot. And I mean, I don't know. That's my bold prediction. I don't know.
Okay. All right. I like it. Audrey, what's your bold prediction?
Jewel Lloyd is going to have a bad year and is going to start to fall out the face of the earth.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, Stacey.
Wow.
This is based on mostly the eye test, but also just that she is an aging player. The Aces, I think, will be successful, but I think Jewel Lloyd specifically is going to hit a decline and will not be a major part of their success. The name, like when this move first happened, I was afraid. It felt like Thanos with the rings, like finally I have them all. But I think she's going to be a bench piece for them. I think she's going to be like the 8th woman on the bench, unfortunately, which sucks because I really like Jewel Lloyd. I really do. But I just watched her play. I watched many of her games last year. Just so inconsistent. She's a volume scorer. If I had to compare her to an NBA player, I would compare her to D'Angelo Russell.
Wow.
I think that she had a very successful start to her career. She really found her home in Seattle, but she's a volume scorer. But I think just like, I just don't think she has the room to do that anymore. And with the limited rope that she is, in my opinion, going to get, because you have so many other star players in front of Jewel Lloyd. I think Asia's still the number one option, then Jackie, and then Chelsea, and then Jewel. Jewel may be a third option, but I think we're going to see a different, in a bad way, version of the Jewel Lloyd experience.
I can't believe you. I know I usually end on a high note, but this was the Around the W premiere episode of season 2 with your biggest Aces fan, Stacey Carter II.
The Valkyries are winning the championship.
No, they're not.
There you go.
And I was joined by Kaylin McDonough, Audrey Becker. Follow Stacey on Sports everywhere on social media, especially Instagram at Stacey on Sports. We will see y'all next time. Enjoy some WNBA 2025. It's going to be a great season.